Hey folks, and welcome to West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. Um, Today I just want to talk a little bit about a lot of the rumours that have been going around um, regarding possible player exits from the Leeds United squad. Now the website currently shows the players. This is off Leeds United's own website, and does seem, you know, reasonably up to date in terms of who's in the squad. As you can see there, starting with the goalkeepers, um, there has been rumour of interest from French club Marseille in Leeds number one Illan Meslier. Um, I would be very disappointed if we were to lose Illan at this stage of his career. I think he's a very promising goalkeeper, and the fact that he was bought by Leeds as a teenager, I think he was about 19 when we first got him. Um, we got him for about £5 million, and he's already proven to be a goalkeeper with a lot of potential. He's not the finished article yet, but he's still only about 24. That's young for a goalkeeper. He could play for another 10 years at least, at a very high level. I would not want to see Illan leave, and if he was to leave, the rumoured price is again rumoured to be around £20 million. Now, whether Marseille have got £20 million to spend is another matter entirely, and whether Illan would go would depend on whether he'd be getting first team football. There was rumoured interest in Illan Meslier last season from some of the so-called big clubs in the Premier League, but he made it very clear that he would only move if he was to be guaranteed first team football. He did not want to go as a backup or substitute goalkeeper. So for me, I think the best option for Illan Meslier is to stay at Leeds and help us get promoted in the upcoming season. I still think there's a reasonable goalkeeper in Chris Klassen. I don't think he's as good as Meslier, but Meslier and Klassen are only a few months apart in terms of age. Carl Darlow is at the other end of the spectrum. He's going to be at least 34 going into the new season, and from the couple of games that he had, I wasn't very impressed. I was quite happy with Chris Klassen's performance when he stepped in, when both Meslier and Darlow were both unavailable. I do not want to see Meslier go. There's some Leeds fans that would be happy to see him go for around 20 million, but for me, my take on it is, who are we going to get who's better than Meslier when we are stuck in the Championship? And this kind of answer is going to relate to a lot of players that we're going to talk about on this video. We may be one of the favourites to go up this time, but that doesn't mean anything. The fact is, we are still a Championship club, as much as I hate to say it. So, yeah, that's the first rumour that's going around. Illan Meslier rumoured to be going to Marseille for 20 million. No rumours regarding Klassen or Darlow. If Meslier does go, I think we do need another goalkeeper. We need a proper first choice keeper, unless they are willing to give Klassen the benefit of the doubt. Let him be give him a chance to be number one. Darlow be the backup, with probably Harry Christie coming up from the youth team, as the third choice. That may be the way they look at it, or they might look at which other goalkeepers may be available on the market. Moving on to the defenders, and there's been some more rumours going around. There's been a rumour going around for over a season now that Junior Firpo is likely to go back to Spain, possibly to sign with Real Betis. Now, whether he does or not is another matter entirely. He was very effective in terms of creating the assists last season. He was very good in that department. There are still question marks over his defensive capabilities, certainly at this level. But certainly in terms of the attacking output, really can't complain. You know, he was a very good outlet working with Crescencio Somerville on that left-hand side for most of the season. Nothing regarding Ampadu. He's you know, he played a predominant role both in midfield and defence last season. Had the armband when Pascal Strout was unavailable. So yeah, nothing on Ampadu as of yet. Charlie Cresswell. He's the next one that's rumoured to be going, and he's rumoured to be leaving Leeds for a paltry £3.5 million. If this happens, it's dreadful. There is at Championship level, there is no doubt that Charlie Cresswell can do a job. He's very effective in the air, can score goals from set pieces and corners, and you know he's got England youth international caps. You know he's still only 21 years old. You know he's one of ours. He has come through our youth development program. And I just, it really, really annoys me that the club are not willing to do more to keep their best young players that they bring through. What's the point of bringing the players through if they're not, you know, if they're just going to be there to be saleable assets when they get older? It really annoys me. I want to see Cresswell stay. I want to see him push for a starting position in the defence. Yeah, you know, we'll see what happens on that. Liam Cooper has been offered a new 1-year deal, as far as I know, and it's still questionable as to whether he's accepted or not. Now, if Cooper decides not to accept the deal in an attempt to get more first team football while he can still play, then that is potentially two centre backs that we're going to be short on, with Cresswell and Cooper leaving. You know, Cooper still has a couple of days to decide if he wants to accept the contract that's been offered to him. If he doesn't, then he'll leave on a free transfer. You know, and you know, you can't argue with his captaincy and leadership skills. You know, sometimes his defensive ability, you know, has been in question, but you know, Cooper bleeds Leeds. He has been a fantastic servant to the club, and you know, if he is going to be guaranteed first team football at another club, nobody can begrudge him that. But you know, I don't think he'll want to stay one more year as a backup. You know, because of the stage that he's at in his career. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Cooper. Joe Rodon. It looked as if the club was going to put in a bid for Rodon and to bring him in for somewhere between 10 and 15 million pounds. As far as I'm aware, Tottenham are looking to sell him. They're not interested in keeping him, but now there's potential interest from the Premier League. It's the three clubs that have gone up. It's rumoured to be Leicester, Southampton, and Ipswich that are interested in Rodon apparently. The chance to play in the Premier League again, and he would be a first choice player for any of those three sides, because he's certainly good enough to be a first team player for any of those three sides. The only thing Rodon didn't do last season was score a goal, but aside from that, he was a very, very strong defender, good with the ball at his feet as well, happy to play the ball out of defence into midfield. You know, so for me, a very good defender at this level. So, you know, it doesn't look as if we're going to be able to buy Joe Rodon, and it doesn't look as if we'll be able to get him on loan. Stuart Dallas has retired because of the injury that he suffered. It was compared to a car crash, you know, which is horrible. You know, so Stuart Dallas has been forced to retire from playing from football. Whether he goes into some kind of coaching capacity or some other non-playing role, I don't know. I think the club are looking at doing something about that, but only time will tell. Jamie Shackleton. Now, the rumour that's been going around here is that he's going to reject the contract that's been offered to him by Leeds, and he's going to join Yorkshire rivals Sheffield United. Now, I don't see where he fits in at Sheffield United, because I think he would continue to be a backup player there. I think, very much like Cresswell, I think Shackleton is another player who can be a very useful player for Leeds this up and coming season. And again, like Cresswell, he's one of ours. He's come through our youth development program. He has, he's gained some experience. With loan spells elsewhere. He's a very versatile and useful player. And if he's been offered a contract that really isn't all that enticing, I think that's a mistake by Leeds. Because if we lose Shackleton, then we've got to spend a few million quid on a player to replace him. What is the point when we've got someone here already? I don't get it. So yeah, if we lose Cresswell and Shackleton, I will be pissed off. I ain't gonna lie. Pascal Struijk, if he can get back to fitness, then we've got a good defender on his hands there. At this level, he's very, very capable. I think he'll probably regain the captaincy going into the new season as well. He only lost it because of injury, and he started the season really well. And again, Struijk, can score goals from set pieces as well. As well as being he's a good leader and certainly a very good defender at this level. So I hope we keep Pascal. Sam Barham, I believe he's accepted the contract that's been offered to him. I think he has. So we've got him for another year. Very useful fullback, and experienced as well. It would be very foolish to lose Barham when he is still a very capable player at this level, and he played more games than we probably thought he was going to be able to. His fitness just about held up, and he played the equivalent of over half the season, which for a free transfer was great. So I'm happy to see Byram stay on. I really am. And he came through our youth academy, 12 years ago. It will mean something to him to see us get back to the Premier League again. So I know he left, but he left us at a time when we weren't in a good ownership position. Now it's a different story. Well, as far as we can tell. Connor Roberts looked quite good when he wasn't injured, but his parent club is Burnley, and they're now in the Championship. I think the chances of us getting Connor Roberts is very slim. So I think we will have to look for another full-back option there. Moving on, midfielders, as it shows here anyway. Nothing on Glenn Kamara. He's likely to stay. There's a load of rumours going round about Crescencio Somerville. After the season he's had, we really need to be demanding big money for Somerville if he goes. But after the breakout season he's had, I'd say breakout season, he kind of came to prominence in the season that we got relegated. He showed glimpses of what he could do, but this season he's really come of age, in terms of maturing as a player and really showing what he can do. The goals and assists, and I think he was voted the Championship Player of the Year, wasn't he? So you really can't take that away from Crescencio, and I hope he stays. We bought him for £1 million, as an 18-year-old, and he's come to the fore. I was watching Somerville when he was ripping it apart in the Leeds youth team, and he's been absolutely superb this season just gone. I hope he stays, but I wouldn't hold it against him if he did get a move to a really well established club. Jadon Anthony, don't think he'll come back to Leeds. He had a loan from Bournemouth and he only got glimpses of game time really, and didn't. He showed on the odd occasion a little bit of potential, but I think he was overshadowed by the other wingers that we have. So I don't expect to see Anthony back. Nothing against the guy, not a bad player, but we're going to need the best that we can possibly get to get promoted this time round. Dan James had the best season that he's had in a Leeds shirt. Got goals and assists last season, and if he can stay fit, will be a very important player. I don't think Dan James will go. I think he will be seen as one of the key players going into this new season. He's quick, he's direct. He doesn't have the skills of a Somerville or a Nonto, but he's just got that blistering pace that fullbacks absolutely hate, and he's capable of getting those crosses into the box. So for me, I think at this level, Dan James, he's still only in his mid-20s as well. He's got a couple more seasons of his prime remaining. And if we are to lose the likes of Somerville and Nonto, we don't want to be losing James as well. Now this is the big one, and this is the one that has prompted me to put this video together. Archie Gray. The rumour going round, and unfortunately it's a very strong rumour, is that Brentford have put in a £35 million bid. Now, I don't know what the layout of this bid is. I don't know if it's 35 up front. I don't know if it's 35 over 5 years or whatever. But there has been a bid of 35 million. The rumour is that this bid has been accepted and that Gray is to discuss personal terms with Brentford. Now, if this is the case, it is stupid. Absolutely ridiculous. Gray is one of our own. He has got a family heritage and family dynasty that has played for Leeds United over the years. They know what this club means to Archie and what Archie means, to the fans. He is a player that is way above his age, for his ability and his maturity on the pitch and what he can do on that football field. And for me, 35 million doesn't buy his boots. I don't care what anyone thinks about that. We should be keeping Archie Gray. I don't give a shit about PSR. I don't care. Right? At the end of the day, Leeds' finances are in reasonable condition and we have got owners that are willing to pump some money into the club. Now, we can sell the likes of Somerville and Nonto and Rutter if we get a big enough bid. But you don't sell Gray. It's that simple. The likes of Cresswell and Shackleton and Gray, we should be keeping these guys. These are the guys that have come through the youth academy, gotten themselves into the first team on merit because they have proven to be good enough. And we need to be keeping them. What's the point of bringing these guys through if all they're being brought through for is just to bring the club some money in? It absolutely pisses me off and I am fed up of it. Now, I don't know what the hell is going on, but I'll tell you now, if Gray goes, then it's going to stall his development, because personally I think he's good enough to get in that Brentford team. I really do. And he would not be out of place. This is reminiscent to when Lewis Cook left Leeds and he ended up being good enough, for the Bournemouth squad and has been there ever since. This is us losing our best young talent. And here's the thing, if Gray goes, what's to say that we don't end up losing Harry, his younger brother? If we lose Charlie Cresswell, what's to stop us losing Alfie Cresswell, his younger brother? These are talented young players that should be brought into the team If they're good enough, if they're not good enough, fine. But if they show signs that they are good enough and they can help the team and help the squad, then for God's sake, keep them. I'm sorry for ranting, but this really boils my bodily fluids. I am fed up of this. I didn't think we were a selling club anymore. You know, I got the impression that we got improved ownership after the 49ers group and the York family took over from Radrizzani. I thought this was a step in the right direction. Now, one player doesn't make a team, right? It does not make a club, right? There is no one player bigger than the club. But when you have got players like Archie Gray, who is 18 years old and plays like a 24-year-old or 25-year-old, in terms of that maturity and the intelligence on the pitch, you do everything to keep him. And it's not like he's even getting a move to someone like a Man City or an Arsenal. He's getting a move to Brentford, a team who last season weren't all that amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, Brentford have established themselves as a very reasonable Premier League side. But let's not forget this. Brentford, they were in the Championship not that long ago. Why don't Brentford bring through their own young players? Because they don't have a top-class academy facility. Leeds' academy is category A. It's the highest category there is. It's top quality. And it's not even youngsters that we're buying from other clubs. Gray, Cresswell, Shackleton, they all came through our own system. We bought Somerville, we bought Nonto. So we can't claim to, we bought Strauch. We can't claim to be, the club who has brought them through from being, really, really young kids. We bought them as teenagers, as late teenagers, and moulded them into good players. But in terms of the likes of Gray, Cresswell and Shackleton, that's on us. We brought these guys through, and the club should be doing everything to keep them. And by the looks of it, he's going to be going with a whimper. Because let me tell you now, in 2 or 3 seasons' time, Archie Gray will be sold for 3 times the amount that we're bloody selling for if we're selling for around 30 odd million quid. I'll tell you that now. And if he does go, there had better be something like a 50% sell-on clause in that contract, in that deal. There had better be. Because if you're selling Gray for financial reasons, then you put a future in that deal. So you put the biggest sell-on clause that you can possibly put in that deal, so that if he then gets sold by Brentford, and he will, right? There is no way that he's going to be at Brentford for 10 years. He's too good for them, no offence. Right? If Archie Gray fulfills the potential that he has got, he will play Champions League football in the next few years. I have no doubt about that. Because he's good enough. Or will be good enough. If he continues the upward trajectory that he's got at the moment, then the sky's the limit. And, there doesn't seem to be any reason for Archie to leave. He was a regular in the first team last season. He got loads of starts, came on from the bench a few times. And he's an England youth international. I'm in total disbelief with all this right now. I really am, and it annoys the hell out of me. Now, none of this has been confirmed. This is all rumour at this stage, but it's coming from relatively strong sources, and this is what concerns me. Now, I want to know what Daniel Farke's stance is on this, because there's no way that Farke would want Gray to leave. Absolutely not. Surely not. Gray is a player who, he could end up being a future captain. In the years to come. You know, he's that intelligent of a player at just 18 years old right now. If he goes, it's an awful statement. And to be honest, it shows us up. It's going to show us up in such a bad light if we are letting young talent like Archie Gray go that easily. As I say, 30 million quid that buys his football boots for the season. That's all it gets. Archie Gray should be staying at Leeds, getting another season of, another full season under his belt whilst he's still a teenager. Imagine if Archie Gray reaches 100 appearances for Leeds before hitting the age of 20, which he definitely would if he was to stay at Leeds another season at least. I'm absolutely in shock with this, and as I say, for me, Somerville and Nonto and Rutter, those guys are expendable. But right now, in the position we're in, Gray is not. We should be doing everything to keep Archie Gray, and this is no offence to Somerville, Nonto or Rutter, but the club doesn't mean anything to them. Leeds United is the employer to those guys. Archie Gray, he's a Leeds fan. His family have been so invested in Leeds United over the years, and Archie's grown up with it. So's his brother. I can't say any more on it other than I just hope that the deal fails, that Archie stays at Leeds, and they figure out some other way of dealing with the financial side of things, because I know that this is only being brought up by due to financial reasons. There's surely no way that the club would sanction a move for Archie Gray. There's no way, unless it was the very last resort. And as I say, if we end up losing Cresswell, Shackleton and Gray in the same summer transfer window, that to me is disgraceful, because those are three guys that have come through our own academy. We should be protecting these players. We should be using these players. We should be making them and coaching them to be good enough so that they get game time, that they are constantly within that match day squad every single match day week or match day itself. I feel so strongly on this. I've always been an advocate for the youth players at Leeds United. I've always wanted to see them succeed and to get into the first team. And this really annoys me. Ilya Gruev. I don't think anything's come up regarding Ilya. I think there was a very loose rumour that someone was interested in buying him. Because he ended up having a very good season. We bought him for 5 million, I think, from Werder Bremen. And I think there were rumours that maybe someone like Dortmund were looking at him. And the asking price was going to be around maybe 15 million. We were going to look to maybe get about £10 million profit on him if anything was to go through. I mean, he's still relatively young. He's only going to be 24 going into the new season. And he's already a full international. And as I say, ended up being a very, very solid player. Just a proper defensive midfielder. Really, really good in doing that. And he started off a bit slowly, but he was the only player that was really adapting to English or British football for the first time. Every other player that we had on the books had already had at least half a season in English football or British football. So for Gruev to end up having a good season that he had, I think I can't see Gruev leaving unless we get somewhere close to an additional £10 million on top of what we bought him for. So anyway, moving on to the strikers. Nothing regarding Joel Perreault. Patrick Bamford, I mean, I'd keep Bamford. I know there's a thing about his wages, but we had something in place where when we got relegated, the Premier League wages got cut in half or close to half. So his wages went down from around 70 grand a week down to 35 grand a week, there or thereabouts. He is still one of the club's top earners. When he's fully fit, we seem to play better. You know, there is still a reasonable goal scorer in Patrick Bamford if we can get him fully fit. And you know, we bought him for £7 million. You know, we're not going to get £7 million for him if we sell him. So the only reason to get rid of him would be to get him off the books, and you know, you might get maybe £3 million for him at this rate. You know, maybe half the amount that we paid, somewhere close to that. You know, because he is, you know, he is a decent championship striker. And it's not just it's not the goal scoring that's the primary thing. It's what he does in the game. You know, he brings other players into play. One of the reasons why the likes of Nonto, Rutter, and Somerville did so well this season is that when Patrick Bamford played, he brought them into the game. He held up the ball, laid it off to them. You know, he was an aerial threat. You know, he's a good player, Bamford, at this level. I don't care what anyone else says. I think he's a good player at this level, and you know, if we can get him fit, then you know he's still going to be a decent number 9. But again, you know, it really depends on what Daniel Farke wants to do, doesn't it? Georgie Rutter, you know, what a season. You know, he's still young. You know, he's still in his early 20s. And he ran rings round so many defences this last coming season, didn't he? You know, he very skillful on the ball. I wouldn't say he's got blistering pace or anything like that, but he's a big, strong lad, and you know, some of the stuff he did on the ball was great. You know, he wasn't a mega goal scorer, but he got loads of assists. You know, so was a very effective player in that regard. You know, fitting that number 10 role very well, and again could have another very good season. Now, very much like Somerville, I mean, again the thing is we bought Rutter for about £33 million. Now, the only reason to sell Rutter would be if we could get anything close to that. Now, there were rumours months ago that Dortmund were interested in buying Rutter. But whether that would have been for anywhere near the £33 million that we paid for him is anyone's guess. Do I think Rutter will go? I think there might be some interest a bit later on in the window. At the very start of the closed season, I basically came out and said that Somerville, Rutter, and Nonto would all leave, but everybody else would stay. That Farke wanted to keep. That was my prediction. Having looked at everything and having thought about everything, you know, we would have to have a very large bid for Rutter to let him go. So I don't think Rutter will go. Whereas Somerville could go if the right bid comes in. As I say, the rumour is anything from 30 million upwards. Personally, I wouldn't be letting him go for anything less than 40. You know, the price of some of these other players. You know, you're talking about the best player in the Championship from last season. You know, and still of a very, very good age. He's still only very young. You know, he's only going to be 22, 23 going into the new season. Got loads of time. He's nowhere near his prime. Imagine how good Somerville could be if he's coached right. You know, and the same goes for Rutter. You get someone in that can coach Rutter to get him to the best of his ability. You've got a cracking playmaker there. You know, let's move on to Wilfred Nonto. You know, we bought Nonto for about £5-6 million. And there's rumours going around that, you know, he wants to go back to Italy so that he can get back in the Italian first team squad. Now, the state of Italy at the moment, they've just been knocked out, haven't they? Haven't they just been knocked out of the Euros by Switzerland? Which is quite a shocker. So after that, the Italians might be looking to kind of refresh their squad and look at some different options. Nonto's likely to be one of them. But there's no money in Italy right now. Italy don't have the money to be buying players like Nonto, because again, Leeds aren't going to want to sell Nonto for anything less than probably around 30-35 million. Because again, look at his age. He's only literally just coming into his 20s, and he's already fully capped by Italy. He's already played a big bunch of games in England already. So, Sky again, kind of like Somerville and Rutter, the sky's the limit for how far these young lads can go. But again, I would be seeing Nonto as a possible saleable asset, if it gave us any chance of keeping Archie Gray, because again we've got Dan James on the wings. So I don't see us losing that much if we get a reasonable chunk of money for Nonto. Joe Geller, I mean, we bought him for £1 million. He's not reached the potential, that we all hoped he would. And again, he's still only the similar kind of age to these other young lads. He's still only going to be 21, 22 going into the new season. So again, he could easily get better, but he just hasn't shown any signs of it. A bit similar to Sam Greenwood, who's not on the list due to the fact he was out on loan. So I don't see much of a future for Gallagher at Leeds. He may go out on one more loan spell, see if he can really kick on and have a really productive season, getting some goals and assists. Develop his play and see if he comes back a better player at the end of this next coming season. Or he goes and plays his trade elsewhere, and it just goes down as being a failed experiment in the end. Finally, Matteo Joseph. Matteo Joseph's one of these who, again, like Gallagher and Greenwood, Joseph and Perkins looked very good in the under 21s in the youth team, didn't they? And then Joseph has made sporadic appearances this last season just gone. He's had England youth caps, he's had Spain youth caps. Looks a very tidy striker, doesn't he? And probably the eventual heir to Patrick Bamford in potentially taking the number 9 shirt. Is he ready for doing a full season of Championship football as the lead number 9? I don't think so. I don't think he's quite there yet. But without a doubt, I think he should be getting some extra game time this next coming season. Whether that means we keep him on as a possible number 9 for ourselves, or if we give him a loan spell where he can play regular first team football, because maybe that's the next step for Matteo. Maybe he needs to play a full season of decent level football, and that way then he comes back a maturer player. But lots of promise. He looked great in the cup match against Chelsea. Scored a brace in that and looked superb. He gave the defenders all kinds of problems. And as I say, he's been electric at under 21 level, but that's a different level, isn't it? When you go into the senior game, it's a different story. But when he's come on, he's never looked out of place. And it's always more difficult to influence a game when you come on as a substitute, as opposed to when you start. So I think there's a definite part to play for Matteo Joseph this season. I really do. But to conclude, I'm worried. I am very, very worried, and it's mostly regarding the 3 players that have come through our youth academy, with the likes of Cresswell, Shackleton and Gray. I have a horrible feeling all 3 of those will leave by the time the new season starts. And if that's the case, it is a dreadful, disgusting thing to see. When you see 3 of our own players, we haven't bought them from others and from other clubs and nurtured them into our own. These 3 are our own, and I just feel it would be disgusting if all 3 of them leave. be discussing if any three of them leave. I think all three of them could be very useful for us this season. So I hope we keep all three, but it's not looking likely. And then if what happens if Gray goes? Does Farker leave? Because there's a player that's been let go against his will. A player that's been let go that Farker doesn't want to see let go. I don't know what direction this is going to go in, but I am very, very worried. Hopefully everything does go in Leeds' favour, and we do start the season well, and we do have, by the time the transfer window shuts, we do have, the best squad in the division, or one of the top two squads in the division. And then it's down to the players to get us promoted, isn't it? I didn't want another season in this Championship division, I really didn't. But I am very, very worried. And, we need to go up this season. We really do. We needed to go up last season, let's face it. But this next coming season, we need to go up. It's that simple. So yeah, apologies if I've ranted a little bit too much here, but I needed to talk about this because there's a big reality here that we could be losing 3 players that have come through our own academy, and that to me is a letdown, because if you know that if all 3 of those were in the first 11, you know that you would get good performances from all 3 of them. You know that they would actually care and that they would actually give their all for the shirt, which is what any Leeds fan wants from a Leeds player. And you're always going to get that from players who do come through the youth academy, who do have an affinity to the club. I know that football's a business, and I know that the club is a business and it runs like a business. It has financial situations and that you need to make tough decisions. But you need to look at the future of the club and what players like these can bring. You look at the young age of these players. There's a lot of potential. And I could comfortably see Charlie Cresswell, Archie Gray, Jamie Shackleton, and then the 2 younger brothers of Charlie and Archie, Harry Gray and Alfie Cresswell, all in that first team squad. How good would that be? The last time that we had that many youth players in the first team squad was when Neil Redfern was the manager, and the main reason that those players were in the first team squad was because he'd coached them in the under-21s, and it was the best. It was the best way financially, but we also had a good crop of players. And Sam Byram knows about this because he was one of them. I think that Sam would be encouraging Archie to give it one more season. Same with Charlie, same with Jamie. Give it one more season. See if you can become. See if you can become a player that Leeds fans are going to remember you by helping us to get promoted. All the guys that were involved in us getting promoted 4 seasons ago, or whenever it were, all of those are going to be remembered for good things. And there is every chance that these young lads could be remembered for good things if they just stay one more season. If we don't get promoted this next season, fine. You've given it a good go. It hasn't worked out, then you sell them. But don't sell them now when we are one of the favourites to go up again. One of the favourites for promotion, and a team that could really dominate this division. And as it stands, it looks like we're going to lose all 3. I'm furious with this. And if this goes through the way I think it's going to, we are going to lose 3 very useful, very talented players here. And not just the 3 young lads that have come through the academy. The likes of Melier could go as well. What's to stop, as I say, the likes of Somerville, Nonto, Rutter, even Joseph, Gruev. These are all good players. And it looks like we're going to lose a shed load of them. And if that's the case, we are in trouble. Because we ain't going to then go and sign a whole bunch of new players. And if we do, what's that going to do? We had to go through all this last season when we bought about half a dozen new players in. and they all had to integrate, and we had a rough start to the season, and that's one of the primary reasons we didn't get promoted. We need to make a good start this season, and we can't if we're letting our best players go, or our young talent go. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Anyway, I've ranted enough. We've been on 3/4 of an hour, so big thank you for all the support as always. Apologies for the rant. Put your thoughts in the comments below, because I bet lots of you are going to be thinking similar things to myself, that there's a real worry about what Leeds United are going to be about going into this new season if all of this goes through. I'm worried as hell right now. I love Leeds United. I want to see us do well. I want to see us promoted. I want to see the club promote their own young players, the ones that have come through the youth academy from single figure ages. These lads have got a little bit of something about them, and they have Leeds United in the blood, and they're not going to have that opportunity because they're going to be sold off. That's how it's looking right now. So I hope it doesn't happen. I really don't. No offence to the others. We could lose Melier, we could lose Nonto, we could lose Rutter, we could lose Somerville. And I wouldn't be as bothered about losing them as I would be about losing Charlie Cresswell, Jimmy Shackleton and Archie Gray. Because there's all these rules about having English players, all these homegrown players. Well, we've got a Category A academy. So why are we letting them go? We're letting them go for the money. But is the money right? Is that really enough money? When you think about the amount of money that these players could go for in a few years' time, and what they could go for if Leeds get promoted to the Premier League. We can double the price amount by being a Premier League player, by being a Premier League club, and these players becoming Premier League players. We can then sell them for double the amount that we can sell them in the Championship. It just don't make any sense to me, this. And you would have thought that Parag Marathi and the rest of the board would have foreseen all of this, had meetings about all this from the day that the bloody season finished. You would have thought that they would have had a contingency plan in place that didn't involve selling the likes of Gray, and then to maybe a slightly lesser extent the likes of Shackleton and Cresswell. I want to see a Leeds team that has those three in the starting lineup, because they're being coached right, they're being coached to the maximum of their ability, and that they can play the way that we know that they can play on their day. And I don't think we're going to get that opportunity to see that this coming season. If all of these rumours that have been flying around go through, I am very, very worried. Because in the Championship, we're not going to attract the quality that's required. Because then, if we do get promoted, how many of those then are going to be good enough in the Premier League? Not many of them. The three clubs who went up have come straight back down again. We've got to make ourselves an established Premier League club again. And we've got to do it the right way. And the right way is by bringing through our own. And making them good enough. Coach them right. And if Farker is not good enough, if he's not a good enough coach to coach these players to the level that we know they can get to, then get another manager in. Get another manager who can coach these players to the best of their ability. Christ, we got Bielsa in the last bloody ownership. And look how good he was at improving individual players. Look at how he's improving Uruguay. Beating the likes of Argentina and Brazil in the time he's been there already. It's no fluke. Yeah. Anyway, that'd be that. I just hope that these deals don't go through. I really don't. And if we have to start the season with a points deduction, I don't care. Just keep these players so that we can win those points back quickly, and that we can then win more games in the middle of the season than what we did, and that we don't have a bloody meltdown in the last 6 games of the season like we did, and that way we'll get promoted top 2. We'll see what happens. Anyway, big thanks for all the support. Put your thoughts in the comments down below. You know, how much would you sell these players for, if any? If for any price. Which players do you think we should keep? Which players do you think we should sell? And what's your current thoughts regarding the club, and what direction the club is going in at this moment in time? You know, is it the case that we just don't know enough? That we don't know enough information right now? You know, because we're not into July yet. Is that the case? I mean, I don't know, but I'm really worried. So, there we go. Big thank you as always. Do please keep your comments respectful in the comments down below. But I would very much welcome your feedback on it. You know, what direction do you think the club's going to go in over these next few weeks? You know, to get the right players in and to hopefully keep our best young talent. And yeah, let's just hope that we can get through these next couple of months in the best way that we possibly can. Because again, you know, there's talk that if Archie Gray leaves, then Eddie Gray is going to cut all of his ties to the club. Are you really going to treat a fellow like Eddie Gray the way that it would come across like that? You know, with everything that Eddie Gray has given to the club over the years, as a player, a manager, an ambassador for the club, I don't know. I really don't know. I think there's a lack of respect going on here. I think, you know, it's awful that these rumours are just allowed to be banded around. And it's even worse that the club is allowing these deals to possibly go through. You know, it's clear to the fans that these players are good enough, and that the club should be doing everything they can to keep these players. But seemingly it's not clear to the club, which just, you know, as a fan, it's extremely frustrating. I'm not pretending I know everything, because I don't. You know, I don't work for the club. I'd love to work for the club if there was any kind of role that was available. I'd love to. You know, I've got Leeds United in my blood. I've supported them all my life. You know, I want to see Leeds United succeed. But you know, we're not going to succeed if we're selling our young players. You know, if we're selling our own, and then having to buy foreigners, or having to buy players from other clubs. You know, the dream is to bring through your own from the youngest of ages, and to get them all in that first team squad, isn't it? You know, that's always the dream. You know, and you know, we've currently got 3, 4 if you include Byram. You know, we should be getting those 4 into that first team lineup by coaching them right, by coaching them to get the very best out of their ability. And if you do that, you've got 4 very good players at this level. And then you get, and then outside of those 4, yeah, if you need to bring in foreigners, bring in foreigners. You know, look at the talents. You know, look at the talent that Somerville has shown this season, and he's Dutch. You know, Melier, potential to be a fantastic goalkeeper. He's French. Joseph, loads of potential in that kid. He's half Spanish. Rutter, little magician, you know, bit of a magician on the ball at times. He's French. Nonto, on his day, can be extremely good. He's Italian. With a bit of African in him. I can't remember. Is he part Ghanaian or Nigerian or something like that, perhaps? But anyway, he represents Italy. You know, these players, you know, they're good players, but make, even though you've got some really good foreign players there, keep the core of your squad your own. And if you keep that core of your squad as being, players that have come through your academy from single figure ages or very very young, Yorkshire born and bred if they can be. But that's maybe going a little too far. But like for example, Archie Ray was born in Durham for some reason. But effectively he is a Yorkshire lad. He's a Leeds lad, effectively. It's just it just hurts as a fan. It hurts as a fan that we aren't getting our shit sorted out. We could be such a good football club if we were just run the right way, and that we were given the opportunity to bring through our own players, the likes of Cresswell, Shackleton, and Gray, and the two younger brothers. What's stopping us getting all of those into the first team squad over the next few years? Well, the only thing stopping us is by us not getting up the division and getting into the Premier League. We've got the financial clout with the current ownership, to be able to sustain ourselves as a Premier League club. But as things stand, we obviously can't. If we sell these players, then we're obviously not in as good a position as we thought we were. And maybe that's partially down to the PSR or FFP rules or whatever they are these days. But surely, that's the point of the board members and the club's financial people to be, doing all of these calculations, and getting everything discussed and I'm not saying that they haven't, but I just can't see why why the only thing that we can resort to is by losing players like Archie. Is the club losing their identity? Are we losing our identity by not bringing through the likes of Gray, Cresswell and Shackleton? If we had those three in Byram in the first 11, it'd be great. It'd be great to know that we've brought through our own, and that they're thriving in the first team. And then the other 7 players in that 11, make them however you want, put in there whoever you want. But just it was great when we had the likes of Byram as a youngster, Taylor, Cook, Mowat, all of these lads. Lees at the time was one of them as well. All of these lads were in the first team. It was great. It was great to see our academy producing good players and getting that first team opportunity and seeing them play well. And if things keep going the way they are doing, we're gonna lose these guys that actually give a shit about Leeds United. And it's not even on them. Some of these don't want to actually leave. Like Gray, as far as I'm aware, doesn't even want to leave. But he's been forced to leave just to bloody appease the folk that deal with freaking finances. And there is a reason for having the financial side of things in place. Of course there is. But for God's sake, it's the Championship. It's not like one of the Championship teams is going to buy a player for 100 million, is it? You know what I mean? Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to sound like a bloody scratch record. Anyway, big thank you for all your support. As I say, do please keep the comments respectable, but do please air your views though. What do you think about the current situation at Leeds United regarding the possible player exits? Who do you think is going to stay? Who do you think is going to be sold? How much do you think they're going to be sold for if they leave? And how do you think we're going to do going forward? Do please give the video a thumbs up like. Do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. There's going to be live video game content coming up. Going to be more recorded videos like this one. About gaming, about football, and about lots of things. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, big thanks as always. Have a great night. See you in the next one. Bye bye.